G'day.
We made it. We hope you've made it too. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We are doing another of our primer series right now. Only we're actually going to take a quick diversion onto a completely different subject, but that's okay. We'll come back to the primer next week. We have spent all week engaging with people with questions about essentially how do they tell the difference between spirit and extraterrestrial activity around them. And so whilst we have spent a long time talking to people about that, we thought it would actually be useful to talk about that here. So that's what we're going to do, or that's what we're going to try and do. So what we've done is compiled all the questions we've had over the last 6 or 7 days about that subject, and we're going to try and work our way through them. It's always fun when we try to do this. We never know how it's going to quite work out. As always, if you want to ask a question as we go along, just type it in. So I was just checking the microphone and making sure it was actually working. We're just assuming you can hear us okay, because I've just realized the setting on my laptop isn't quite what it normally is. Let's just check.
There you go.
Yeah, cool. Okay, I'm just assuming that if you couldn't hear us by now, somebody would have said, we can't hear you talking. And nobody said that.
That's right.
So we'll keep going. Okay, So how can we tell the difference between spirit and ET activity, and what are all the ins and outs of that? Where do we want to start?
That's a big question.
It's a huge question, isn't it?
Generally, extraterrestrials aren't, sort of performing the same type of things that spirit people do. Spirit people, if they're just our loved ones, they'll be around us. If it's our guides, they'll be working around the fabric of us as well. Possibly even giving us levels of advice depending on the level of grounding that a person has. If it's an extraterrestrial level of contact, it's a completely different scenario. People romanticize ET contact far too much, and quite often, if it's ET contact, it's based around there's a reason why they're contacting a person.
Yeah, we're guessing that most of you know, but we've spent decades developing as mediums working with spirit, and certainly for me, working with spirit happened way before working with the Zetas. And so having had the experience of working with both, we can talk a lot from our own experience about the different things that we've seen go on as mediums ourselves, and sitting for other people as well. And I think one of the key things to note about spirit activity versus extraterrestrial activity, if you're not energy sensitive, if you're not mediumistic, or you haven't sat for development, it's very simple. If the activity seems earthly based, it's around material possessions, material things, then it's highly likely going to be a spirit entity creating that activity. And
give me an example.
I was going to say, so a classic example is, and we did a show about this a couple of weeks ago, apports and asports. Spirits are very, very capable of dematerializing and rematerializing our personal possessions, or creating something out of literally nothing, as I talked about, like I experienced with Bill Meadows that time. I've also received only one apport that was very relevant to a situation that was going on at the time. But they take stuff all the time. They can do that. They can rearrange stuff. They can move stuff. How many times?
This is where all the socks are going, by the way.
This is where the socks go.
No, it's not. It's a joke. It's a joke.
But I mean, I know people who have experienced true poltergeist activity, or labeled as poltergeist. Cups flying off shelves, all sorts of stuff. Disgruntled spirits. We know that spirits are quite capable of breaking things. You name it, they can do it. We've witnessed it ourselves. Thankfully, not on that destructive level, but certainly you've had objects taken from the house and moved to you where you were.
But that's called an asport.
Asports, yeah. And so, you know, if the activity is very earthly based in 3D materialistic things, you can pretty much assign that to spirits.
What's John's question? So, what was it again that you said that spirits are unlikely to be manifesting?
What was it that spirits are unlikely to manifest? Well,
spacecraft.
Yeah, that's very true. You know, you're going to go.
No. I was just thinking that
it's more like the question is more like, what are extraterrestrials unlikely to manifest? Basically, extraterrestrials they're just not interested in our stuff. They're just, it's that simple. They're really, really not.
But look, there are some cases where an item may have been taken by an extraterrestrial in a contact situation, but they generally return it as well. That's the difference. They're not interested in keeping it as a memento of the occasion, or anything like that.
No. And, and then that kind of leads on to the question of, why would a spirit take something? And is that acceptable?
Yeah, I guess there's some reasons for that. A spirit may move something to make you aware that they're there. So that imagine a loved one comes through, you're completely ignoring them, and they go, you know what, I'm going to move your keys, and so the keys are here, and then you come back, and the keys are the other side, and you think, I didn't move them, and then next thing you know, the spirit person is able to move them back.
Yep.
So spirit people can definitely move things, but it depends on how much energy they have to move an item, what linkage they have to the item, whether it can be moved or not. I would suggest, though, that a lot of the things that people think are spirit contacted, just people being absent-minded.
Yeah, that's also.
It's easy to blame spirits. Oh, yes. Yes, that's why the toast is burnt.
It's the spirit's fault. They held the toaster button down. Anyway, there's a couple of questions there, I think.
No,
spirits can be rascals. Yes,
they
absolutely can. Rascals.
Would a spirit apport or asport a chair? Look, it's possible.
Why not?
Obviously, they have with D.D. Hume, his name was. He would be, as a medium, he would be dematerialized out through the seance room, out the window, and then rematerialized back in the room next door.
They did that with Colin Fry.
And then knock on the door, and the sitters are going, who's out there? And he goes, it's me, it's the medium. That's pretty funny.
They can do, with the right conditions and everything, and, they can do amazing stuff. Okay, this is the next common question we get. Are guides and spirits the same thing?
Well, it depends on the level of guidance. If someone that you love passes over and then they come and give you some advice, is that really guidance? Yeah, it is, but they're probably not a guide. But if a guide comes and then says, well, like the way that you're doing this is wrong, or guides generally are much more structured and much better trained than sort of just somebody that's passed over. I think that guides come in all sorts of ways as well. So a guide may show themselves to a person as like a bird, or they may show themselves like a dragonfly or something. It's whatever you will accept as being a level of, sort of guidance and evidence. But in saying that, if we start assigning everything that's going on around us to spirits, we're really missing the point, because then when your spirit guide does something, you've missed it because you assigned everything to the spirit guide. And that would be a devaluing aspect for the spirit guide as well.
Yeah. And I guess it also comes down to, what are you doing as a person determines the level of guidance you require.
Yeah. And as Trish says, who trains guides? Well, you'd be interested that often it's the medium that trains guides. So as the medium's developing and the spirit people are part of that process of development, what's taking place is that they're learning as they go along as well. Now, they will have other spirit people with them that have an idea of what it was like to work with a different medium. They'll have suggestions, they'll work together as a team, they'll perform tests on the medium and the energetic environment, if there's ectoplasm involved on that as well, to work towards a way of producing a sort of result. Now, what the result is could be anything depending on the spirit team and the medium's ability to develop.
What about generational guides?
Yes, there are generational guides as well. So there'll be guides often that are handed from, say, one person to the next at the end of life for that person. All their guides will move across to the next mediumistic person in the generational line. Quite often these are cultural areas.
They're quite powerful guides.
Well, what is a powerful guide? A guide is only ever as powerful as the person that it's trained to work with. And so a guide could be really powerful, transfer across to another person, and be very weak because the person isn't trained at all. So the guide cannot produce the same manifestation from the medium because it's the medium that's the block, as usual.
Yeah. There's a question from John, but I can't read it. Something about...
Yeah, I'm not sure. It says something about, is she still present in the astral? Look, for a start, spirit people don't go into the astral. I know that a lot of people believe that. Spirit people go to spirit realm. Spirit people pass over into spirit realm as well. They don't generally get trapped or anything like that. I know that there's a lot of stuff around spirit rescue circles and all these things, and it makes everybody feel very important. But the honesty is here that spirits can guide other spirits. If a spirit is near a physical person, it's because the spirit's chosen to stay near the person. And we've seen through experience that sometimes spirits stay with their loved ones because they want to. And then someone says, oh, but they didn't pass over if they stayed next to you. That's not true at all. Anything that's based in fear is just a bit of silliness, to be honest. And we've had a lot of dealings with thousands of spirits, and I've never really ever come across a spirit that was really trapped. It was more about they decided to stay where they were because they wanted
it's
to.
Their choice. Yeah. Okay, are we good to move on?
Yeah.
Is a spirit guide the same as an extraterrestrial guide?
Let me just have my cup of tea.
I guess, I mean, obviously not literally, they are not the same. Obviously, spirit is a spirit person and an extraterrestrial is an extraterrestrial, and never the two shall meet. But in terms of the guidance they offer, like our spirit guides are here for pretty much anything we need them to be here for, right? And that, basically...
You're saying they're over there washing the dishes?
Oh my God, I wish they were.
Really?
But, if you need advice about this, and you have good communication with them, you can ask them.
That's the point, isn't it? If you have good communication.
Yeah, like, should I really go for that job next week?
Don't.
How do we see that working out? Could I ask my extraterrestrial guide about a job change?
No. It's spirit people who've manifested and materialized and lived in the physical realm that actually know what it's like to actually have a job. It's pointless asking a Zeta, should I change my job, when Zetas work in service to others, and obviously they work in a collective. They don't understand or have the same process where humans have to exist. So asking ET guides, and I'm really sort of have levels of concern about some people saying, oh, my ET guide says, that's a real issue. I mean, how do you know that this is really an ET guide? And we'll talk about that after, in regards to spirit people pretending to be extraterrestrials, because they know that people want an ET guide. I've got to have an extraterrestrial guide. It's just so special.
I guess one of the, having had spirit guides and now working with the Zeta, trying to I would never in a million years even bother to ask them about any human, earthly related matter, because it's just so not on their radar.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that's so what they're not concerned about. And I wouldn't even sort of, you know, sitting here now, if I wanted to say to my spirit guide, look, I need a hand with something, I could probably 90% of the time guarantee that if I do it in the correct way, I can get some level of connection with them. But can I do that with my, you know, the Zeta beings that we work with? No. It really does need to be a very different process when we try and
Well, here's
work
the
with
question for you. So you said that you've asked your spirit guide a question. Where are you getting the answer? How are you hearing the answer?
Yeah, I mean, how people hear the answers, yeah, or from their guides, or just even spirit people generally, varies from person to person, doesn't it? But, you know, some people see imagery, some people have a strong sense of gut feeling about the answer. Some people have the clairaudience, which is just amazing when you can like literally hear them talking in your ear, which I've experienced on a number of occasions a long time ago, and I wish I still had that, because although it scared the living bejeebies out of me at the time because I was not expecting it, it was actually really helpful.
Yeah, but I'll be honest. Like, does that happen all the time? Like, do you
No.
really want to hear somebody talking to you? That's no good.
I tell you what, though,
It's no good.
it was so crystal clear.
Okay, so that was a one-off, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
absolutely, it was a one-off, and yeah, it really was a one-off in exceptional
Because
circumstances.
if someone tells me they're hearing voices, I'm going,
Yeah.
well, listen,
Yeah.
that's probably not your spirit guide.
They,
Okay,
you know,
but
they whispered in my ear.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
yeah,
But he's nudging me.
no, I am,
Move
because I'm
on.
going, yeah, guess what? You know,
Yeah, no, that was the exception to the rule. Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. I'm like, no, we're not doing this.
All right.
What, you're nudging me?
I'm nudging you now.
Okay.
Okay. So, okay, people report as evidence, as a way of evidencing their extraterrestrial guide, that they've seen sparkles, orbs, and other kind of I don't want to use the word scant, but evidence that just isn't very
Evidential.
Yeah, I guess the question is from them: are sparkles and orbs? Can orbs and sparkles be guaranteed to be extraterrestrial contact?
No, not
That's
at
the
all.
question.
Absolutely
Really?
not. And the other thing is that if you've discounted the fact that you've got an ocular issue in regards to going and seeing an optometrist,
Yeah.
the other thing is that some people do see sparkles and all the rest of it, but you cannot ever be guaranteed that the sparkle that you see has got anything whatever to do with the spirit person or ET.
Yeah.
And got a problem if that's where the level of your relationship is. Because, okay, I'll give you an example. So a spark happens. The next thing you should say is that was great. Now I prefer a better level of communication than that. That's not good enough. All right. Because if you go, oh, okay, I'm just going to accept that as being my level of communication, that's where the guide stays at. They never grow past that. You never grow past that. And your level of intuitive communication is zero at that point.
And I think another point to make about seeing phenomena, right? Doesn't matter what type of phenomena it is evidence that you're seeing something, and that's assuming you've ruled all the obvious explanations and causes of that phenomena out. But it's not actually evidencing what the phenomena is being caused by. So let's say an orb suddenly floats into this room and we go, oh, look, there's an orb. Great, there's an orb. But that orb doesn't tell me whether it's being generated by what entity, for what purpose, or for what reason.
It may not have anything to do with the entity.
It might not have anything
to do
with it.
It may be an electrical discharge in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And people assign all these spiritual connotations to these things.
They call it.
They go outside and they see something in the sky. Oh, it's got to be aliens. Well, you know, like there's another thing, you know, like what about with all the current level of disclosure? And now you could just about guarantee if you walk outside and see a craft, it belongs to humans.
That's literally the next question.
And
this question was from this person: when I look outside and see a craft, based on the recent disclosure by Stephen Greer, how can I tell if this is not a human craft?
You can't.
Yeah, maybe we just want to touch on that Greer disclosure stuff that happened.
Yeah,
a few days ago.
Stephen Greer did a disclosure last week and was talking about that humans have back-engineered craft. We also know that Grush had also said that they had back-engineered craft and all the rest of it. And the issue is now you've got to have some level of skepticism when you go outside and see anything or see a craft. Is it now part of just an astral image? Because, of course, if half the people on the planet are thinking about UFOs and aliens, well, that means that half the astral is full of UFOs and aliens, and all those images exist.
And the astral bleeds.
And it bleeds into the physical. Yeah. And so you've got to take all of this with a skeptical dose of skepticism, which is a really bad way of saying it. But in the end, if I walked outside and saw a craft now, I'd go, nah, I'm not buying it.
So so let's imagine we've gone outside and we've said, right, tonight we're going to look for a craft. We see a power up, a big flash, or a zigzaggy something or other.
Thanks, no. Bye.
What do we do? How do we tell if that's a human craft or an extraterrestrial craft?
I would say that, think about it. Let's put this around the other way. Does the human species exist? Okay, look what we've got. We've got a whole planet with all of its infrastructure and all of its technology. We've got satellites in the sky. We're emitting EMF and radio waves. We've got tons and tons of evidence that we exist. Is the best that we can possibly do is flash one light in the sky somewhere, even as a civilization that is not supposedly as advanced as lots of other civilizations. If the best that an alien civilization or the Council of Nine
or 8
or any council can do is put a flash of light in the sky, then I would say that that's actually not extraterrestrial contact at all.
This is another question relating to craft that we get. Okay. I saw an orb outside my house. Is it an extraterrestrial craft?
Say that again. I saw a what?
I saw an orb outside my house.
Yeah.
Is that an extraterrestrial craft?
Well, the first thing I would do would be to grab anybody else around me and say, can you see that orb? Because it's a bit useless, isn't it, if you've got nobody with you? But if you've got two people with you and you're seeing it, and then you can say, well, hang on, it's not acting like a drone. It's not a street light. It's not a firefly. It's not a spark. It's not this. And you've got to go through this whole list of things, unfortunately, because if you don't do that, and then every time you see an orb, you go, that's an ET, that's an ET. They'll go, well, that's the level of contact that we're going to come at that person with, is we're just going to talk to them via seeing orbs.
What if the orb was like that big?
What, outside the house?
And they designated that as an extraterrestrial craft.
What, the whole craft was that big? What are they, ants? I don't know.
What if 3 people see an orb come into the room? It does its thing and then it goes off again.
Well, you'd have to ask yourself, were those 3 people actually under the influence of screen memory technology?
Yeah, that's
really what it comes down to. Because if you have multiple people see a light come into a room, I mean, what sort of contact is happening there? Are they seeing the orb because that's what they're meant to see? Is it an orb from a spirit person? I mean, question everything. Yeah. Always question everything. We are the biggest skeptics on this planet.
Orbs do not necessarily mean extraterrestrials, just like they don't necessarily mean spirit people either. So,
yeah. The best part is once you've discounted all that stuff, if it still keeps happening, you can go, hey, that's a spirit person. And this is great because then the spirit guides or the ET guides or ET go, this person's using common sense. This person is somebody who's discounting all the phenomenon and actually looking for real evidence. And then, of course, they go, we'll work at this person at this level.
This person said, I just feel like the energy with her belongs to an alien race. Is just feeling like it's extraterrestrial enough.
Yeah. No. It's lovely that a person says, oh, it's the Arcturians that have come to visit me and all that way, by the way. They've travelled for a very long time just to flash one light in the sky. No, they haven't. I think that going by your feelings in regards to what's there is very unlikely to be proper contact, because if you, as you know from all the other videos we've done, there's screen memory technology being embedded with the person. The feeling may not have anything to do with the extraterrestrials. It may just be self-produced.
What about in a sitting or seance environment where you're sitting with a medium? How could we discern a trickster spirit versus an extraterrestrial?
A trickster spirit.
Yeah, pretending to be an ET. That's something
really?
we see frequently.
Okay.
Spirit people pretending to be extraterrestrials.
They'll tell you everything you want to hear.
Yeah.
Everything that you want to hear. They'll produce nothing.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. So,
or they'll produce earthly based
phenomenon.
Yeah.
I would suggest that if a spirit person is pretending to be ET, they will never produce anything. But if it's an extraterrestrial coming through a medium, at some point they'll produce a level of evidence, if it's really an ET,
yeah,
or non-human intelligence, that is actually significant.
And this is the classic, my ET says I'm not ready to see them.
I wouldn't buy that. I'd just say, I'm not interested. I'll go and find somebody else to trick.
Yeah. Got a few questions that we'll address before we carry on.
Do the Zetas have fun, or is it all business? Business. It's interesting, isn't it? If I said that question to you about, say, animals, do dogs like to have fun? Yes, they do. Do cats? Probably not. Maybe they do.
Oh, they do.
What about fish? What about fish? You don't know, do you? What about frogs? Frogs just sit there.
Oh, yeah, but
they're always very happy, right? So in the end, do we know if the Zetas like to have fun, or are they all business? I've not seen them having any fun, but generally it's been all business.
They don't.
It doesn't mean that they couldn't have some level of social interaction, but we haven't specifically ever seen them doing that. And because of that, I can't say yes, they have.
We'd have to define fun.
I would also say that if I saw some ET come over and they've got a hat with a feather and they're playing badminton, probably I've got a screen memory happening to me at that point in time.
Yeah. When the Zetas come and speak through you to me or the sitters, there's always a reason for it. They never just randomly sort of call in to say hi. There's always a purpose. When we have visitation from them overnight or during the day or whenever, there's a reason for it. They don't just randomly come in, like, whereas a spirit person would. A spirit person would absolutely have fun. They would make jokes with you and just act in a normal human way. The Zetas don't have that about their personality. They have they have levels of curiosity.
Yeah, but do they have a sense of humor? That's such an interesting question. That's such a human question, isn't it? We're trying to assign all of these human things to these races. That doesn't work.
No, they really don't have a sense of humor.
But even if they did, would you be able to work out if they did?
No,
because once again, let's pretend that an ET comes into your house. You tell them a joke and they laugh. Are you really telling them the joke, or are you being given a screen memory that makes you think you're telling them the joke?
Yeah,
you just don't know.
Yeah. In a public sitting a few years ago, one of the sitters, they tried to tell a joke, and
it didn't go down too well.
It caused them absolute confusion, and I think we lost about 20 minutes of the sitting trying to unpick it. It was horrendous. Anyway, okay, so going back to calling craft, etc. Somebody said, well, what's wrong with just going outside and calling a craft?
Go outside and call a craft.
What's wrong with that?
It's a big universe. Which race is coming? Who are they? Is it really? Actually, if I call a craft and I see a craft, How do I know it's just not a human?
I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and open the front door.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to yell outside. Would anybody like to
a cup
come
of
into
tea.
my house? Anyone, just anyone. Does anyone want to come in, right? And so let's pretend it's a busy day and I have all these people suddenly pile into my house.
For
I'm
a cup
thinking,
of tea.
yeah, that's great. This is nice. Everything's good. Right. Okay. You all need to leave now. It's the end of the day. And say 3 people out of 30 do not leave.
Right.
Oh, you need to go now. No,
No, not going.
I need you to leave. No. Or, okay, say one of them goes, but my God, they leave a bad stink behind, Like, it's common sense, isn't it? We don't just randomly invite strangers into our house. So why would we randomly invite extraterrestrials into our life in any way? It doesn't matter whether it's through a C5 process, whether it's through a meditation process or, guided or otherwise. We should exercise the same amount of common sense we do in our everyday lives as we do with spirit people and as we do with extraterrestrials. And that's in our approach to them and their approach to us. And so if, for instance, you're working with a spirit person and then all of a sudden things start going missing from your house, stuff gets smashed, etc., you don't accept that behavior, do we? We wouldn't expect us, as adults or even kids to be acting like that. So we just need to very much apply a common sense approach to every aspect of communication with spirits and extraterrestrials.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know a time when I would see that level of behaviour anyway, because it's us that also has the strict contact protocols in place as well.
Yeah.
Trish says, what if the missing sock had a feather in it? Yeah, that's pretty funny. But Masood says, let's keep smiling, and then when we smile, the reptilians go hungry. Well, it's funny that you say that because it's true. It's true.
And that's actually a really good way to
be positive and be happy, be grounded.
Yeah. Be grateful. Like, gratitude is one of the most amazing things that we practice in the morning. And it doesn't have to be over anything massive. It can be over the little things, but really does help.
Nixter, what alien convention is in Queensland this month?
This month?
This month. Which one's that one? Just type in what it is and we'll have a look. It'd be interesting to go to an alien convention. I'm hoping that there's humans there as well. Yeah. What's the next question?
No reptilians. The hitchhiker effect, aka from Skinwalker Ranch. What is that? What's that about?
Well, my understanding is with the hitchhiker effect that people have gone to Skinwalker Ranch, and in doing so, when they've left there, that some level of phenomenon has actually gone with them as some sort of energetic attachment. I mean, obviously that's possible.
So, what do we know about?
We know people that went there, and the same thing happened to them as well.
We do,
but we won't disclose any of that information, obviously, for various reasons. But yes, we know that people have gone there and that happened. But I would also suggest it's not just Skinwalker. There'd be plenty of places that you could go.
We know that energy can transfer to people.
Yeah, of course.
It's not difficult for these entities, regardless of what they are, to jump from one person to another person.
And that's because they need a lot of exercise. So remember, when they jump, well, because science saying that they're jumping, so obviously they're not fit. They need exercise.
Okay. Right. Oh boy, yes.
You're not going to get anything serious.
No, I can tell that. All right. This person said, how can people begin to sense spirits?
I think that people need to really, be careful about trying to sense spirits. Generally, if you can, if you're a natural mental medium, it'll develop in a way that's much more clear to that person. When people seek mediumship, when people seek to develop physical mediumship, sitting in cabinets or whatever, in the end, it never really works out well because the mind's so powerful, it can create in energy levels of phenomenon as well. About telekinesis and things. And so I would suggest that if a person's really going to develop a good relationship with spirit, that they get to know themselves, that they do meditation and mindfulness, that they learn about their breathing, that they understand what different energies are around them as well.
Yeah.
And so in that way, once you know what your energy is like, you can understand if there's a change or an energy around you as well. A lot of people do different things like psychometry and all that, but
Yeah, that's a
all
great way
these
to
things
start.
need to be done under guidance from people that have done it before
Yeah.
as well.
This question is quite simple. We've kind of touched on it.
Yeah.
Do ET take things from your home and return them, or is it spirits? Well, we've kind of covered that. Sort of stuff going missing from your house is highly likely to be. I mean, of course, ruling out all the obvious, right? It's then we'll move to spirits rather than extraterrestrials.
Yeah. I'm not sure, Trish, that Nick still was talking about that one, but we are talking at the Cardwell UFO Festival as well in August. But
We are.
Oh, maybe that's what Nick still was talking about.
Oh yeah, that's August, not June.
July.
Yeah, and I'm taking some paintings with me, and they're going to be they're part of an art exhibition for the opening of the event, which is a bit scary. We'll be taking this one, and actually have to paint some more, so I need to get on with that. But anyway, all right. Why are people suddenly so interested in extraterrestrial contact, and what are the ramifications of just trying to contact anyone?
We covered that before, but people are interested in ET contact because, of course, some of the disclosure has been around the fact that extraterrestrials exist. But the problem is then when Stephen Greer came out and said, well, most of the contact or all of the contact is programmable life forms. And of course that a lot of the contact is human. So this now brings into question a lot of the so-called contact these days. Remembering one very important point, that in the past when people were contacted, it was a very different contact scenario, and now we have people that are being contacted differently. And so it's really important to try to work out what that contact means. Right.
I was looking the other day at some group on Facebook, and they were talking about, some famous UFO sighting sometime 20, 30 years ago. It was the one with the blocky looking V-shaped craft, not like, a triangle, just the lines. And that was specifically one of the ones that was talked about in Greer's presentation as being a human craft. And I was like, wow.
Every craft that you could have seen,
if that's
it's
true,
been replicated by humans.
You just literally don't know what you're
seeing.
So,
as I said, one could land outside and you could probably walk up and say, would you like a cup of tea? Because they're probably humans inside at this point, unfortunately. And I know that everybody wants them to be aliens, but as I pointed out over and over again, there is no extraterrestrial disclosure to the human race. There's only humans disclosing information about humans and their contact with extraterrestrials. And at that point, even that level of contact is in obfuscation. And so, although, as I've said before many times, let's pretend today all of it's out there. Yes, ET exists, and we say that they do, and that there's craft. There's not going to be one extraterrestrial race disclosed for so many reasons.
Do guides and extraterrestrials have ethics? What are our experiences?
I would say that the spirits and ET that we've worked with have very extremely high ethical standards.
Why do you think that is?
Because we're so skeptical.
Yeah.
Basically. And they know that if we were not skeptical in everything that we did, then any trickster person or element could come in and try and convince us of something.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think it's very healthy to be that way. Absolutely. And it helps you to stay grounded. Now, do we have any questions there? Something about Cardwell again. Yes, it's the Cardwell one. Yes, Nixter, I'm going to that one, and so is Cyan. We're actually giving a talk there.
Yeah, we're presenting and doing all sorts of
giving a talk, and we're going to be chatting with lots of people as well. It's going to be a very interesting few days. I'm going to enjoy it. Especially I think there's a few people going to be dressing up as aliens. And
Oh
stuff.
yeah, it's kind of like
lots of tin foil hats
Yeah.
and stuff.
it's going to be there's going to be a good fun.
What's the
about
actual URL for that? So people can look it up and see the.
Well, I think if you just Googled Cardwell UFO Festival,
you'll see some of the pictures of the way people dress up as aliens.
Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting. Very interesting. It's going to be nanu.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be awesome
Nanu,
if it was. Okay. I don't like this question much, but we'll answer it because we've been asked. Do spirits taunt humans, and what can a person do about it?
Well, if a person's ungrounded, then of course a spirit person can sort of interact with them in a way that could cause them to be more ungrounded. If you're grounded, that means that you're not moving into the fabric of the attention of spirit people. But the more ungrounded you are, if you're using binaural beats and they're not the right sort of binaural beats, or if you're doing things that would cause you to be ungrounded, you've got to expect that even that's not going to draw attention to other beings or anything. It just makes you feel unwell with yourself.
Yep.
And so it's really super important to be mindful, to do breathing techniques, to go out and spend time walking, spend time in with nature, with your friends, get off social media. That's a big one at the moment. And really spend some time sort of doing some checking up on your own mental health, which is really super important, really important.
What if I've been lied to by a spirit? Have we ever seen that type of
behavior?
behavior?
Yeah, I've seen spirit people lie all the time. Not all of them, but I'm just saying that, it's like, as you said, stepping outside into the street. What's the capacity for anybody to tell you a fib? It's probably quite high.
Yeah. I mean,
and those people are going to cross over at some point, and they'll probably,
that's right.
If they told fibs here, they'll tell fibs there. Maybe, I don't know.
We find ourselves constantly having to remind people that spirits were humans, just like we're all living and existing right now. We all have our own personality. We all have our own code of ethics. We all have our own behaviors.
Yeah.
And a spirit person is no different. They take that with them to spirit realm. So imagine a jovial person who likes to play practical jokes on a person all the time, and they just think it's funny. They're going to take that with them to spirit realm.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and we see that. I've seen that manifest in some crazy phenomena in a sitting with in a normal spirit seance environment, which was funny. The spirits weren't pretending to be anything other than that they were.
You knew what they were doing.
Yeah, but then you have the spirits who act in a more sinister way, just like humans will do. There are plenty of examples I can just think of like that, where we know human behavior is fraudulent, whether it's the person pretending to be the bank on the end of the phone, the person who sent you the scam email. We know people do unethical things. Well, spirit people are no different. And so
only because they were humans.
Because they're humans, that's right. So if you have a high ethical expectation of the beings that you work with, because that's the way you are, then that will be reciprocated. And what can you do about it if you sort of realize you're in a position where what the spirit person or other entity isn't what you thought it was? Well, you stand your ground and you tell them to go away, just like you would a normal person.
So basically, imagine you're standing there talking to nothing and you're telling them to go away. I would suggest that being grounded probably helps.
Yeah, of course.
A lot.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah. Okay. This person says, I sometimes feel tingling on my skin. Is that a sign that there is a spirit or extraterrestrial with me?
No, actually, no. It's not a sign at all. And even if you said to the spirit, okay, so let's say that there's tingling there, right, on the back of my head, and I say, okay, we'll make it tingle here, and then suddenly I feel tingling there. How do you know that that's not psychosomatic?
Yeah.
How do you know that you actually haven't produced that? That's not evidence in any way. And I know that people want to, in some way, feel that they're causing a level of meaning making between them and their loved ones, or them and spirit people. But if a spirit person is able to present evidence, they'll do it properly, and they'll do it through mediums.
Yeah.
And it's all right to say, well, I can feel that because I've got tingling on my skin. Well, if that's the level, once again, of the relationship that you want to have, then that's exactly where it stays.
Yeah, it's the same as when you're in a sitting and we sense temperature changes. In the room, I'm suddenly hot, I'm suddenly cold when you shouldn't be, and you're in the sitting environment. Again, it's evidence of something going on, but it's not evidence of what's causing it. But people then take that to the extreme and they're just sitting around their house and, I'm suddenly feeling cold and I've got goosebumps.
And the windows are open.
It's like exercise common sense.
Yeah.
Rule out the obvious first and then let's have a think about it.
What's the next question?
Can a human see attachments? I'm not sure what the person meant by attachments, and can they clear them?
No.
So can we define that question a bit more first?
Yeah, I know that people say that there's energy attachments,
energy attachment.
I would suggest that if a person is making claims that they're able to do that with Reiki or whatever, I mean, how do we even know what we're seeing? That's another issue. It could be any type of energy that you're seeing. But let's be open here. A lot of people, they sort of, I don't know, what am I trying to say? I'm saying that generally, if you've got energetic health, i.e., that you are meditating and being grounded and that you're mindful, spiritual hygiene, that you're understanding your energy and the difference about the energy around you, then of course there's capacity for you to clear your own energy. We say that to a lot of people, clear your own energy. And of course, because you are a sovereign human being, you have the capacity to clear your energy and hold your own energetic space. And so I think that that's probably the answer to that question.
What about extraterrestrial implants? Can humans sense them?
I don't think so. I just don't think so. It's got to the point where, how do you even know that there is an extraterrestrial implant? How do you really know?
Yeah.
And what if an implant is just a thought? Let's remember that there are humans that are also seeking to implant information. Think about it. You turn the TV on. They're advertising. What are they seeking to do? They're seeking to get you to buy their product, buy sort of just ideas. And so when we think across the wide range of information that's available, can you isolate it as one thing? No, you can't.
How can I learn to correctly identify what is happening around me?
I think we've said that a few times now. It's more about being grounded and getting out there into your life. Years ago, before all this technology existed, all these distractions, people actually spent time outside communicating with each other, talking with each other, and people were really grounded. It was a completely different lifestyle. You're starting to see people all over social media becoming totally ungrounded. They get their levels of energetic whatever from social media, and in the end, it's not healthy. It's just not healthy.
Can the mind recreate feelings of contact?
I think the mind is a very, very powerful tool, and that it can create anything that it wants to create if given the chance. And in knowing that, this means that we should question what we see as well.
And somebody says, have we ever had problems with spirits?
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Who hasn't?
Yeah, my socks go missing as well.
Yeah,
no, but that's not true. I'm just saying they do go missing, but it's more about, is a spirit person really materializing to take my sock? No. All right. But do spirit people have a sense of ownership in certain places that they have existed in previously? Yes, they do. And so you may get, we were at a hotel in Queensland and a spirit person was standing in the corner. When I asked them what was the matter, they said, my chair's missing. So I went up to the publican and I said, there's a spirit person in the corner and their chair's missing. And the person said, give me a break. that spirit was supposed to have been cleared from this hotel. And by the way, I only sent that chair out last week to get reupholstered, and it'll be back next week. I said, well, there you go. I said, when people go in to clear these spaces, what happens is the spirit people go, okay, I'll leave. And they walk outside and stand out there. And then the person that's clearing, whatever the way they're clearing, leaves. And then the spirit person comes back and says, where's my chair? So really clearing, does it work? Depends on who does the clearing, how it's done as well.
Yeah.
But we're at the end of all of the questions now,
We
which is
are.
really good.
I think I got them all.
Okay, so we've done all that.
Any questions we've missed in the
You know
chat?
what? We've been on for 50 minutes.
Okay.
That's really good.
Any last questions, people?
All
and then
right.
we'll head off if we're all good.
No. Okay, it's all good.
Is
Now,
it good?
next week, we're going to be talking about something completely different, a lot less amusing.
We're doing the gateway.
But we're going to be talking about the gateway.
Yes. So don't ask me what chapter number that is in the primer. I literally can't remember, but it is in there. There's also a standalone section on our website about the gateway. It says the gateway. So if you want to read about that in advance and then ask questions, the gateway always throws up thousands of questions, which is why we're going to do a whole show about it.
Yeah.
So that's next week, which will be on at the same time as we did this week. I think that's everything.
We're done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you for being with us, everybody. We can see you all chatting away.
And remember, be grounded.
Yes.
Stay clear.
Yeah.
Go for a walk.
Keep your front door locked.
Go down the ocean. And just be sensible
Hug a
about
tree.
everything. Yeah, hug a tree. Be sensible, and enjoy your life, because it's very, very precious. All right, and thank you very much.
Take
Bye.
care.